Hello everyone, my name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and welcome to my channel. Today we are reviewing Married at First Sight, Season 16, Episode 18. So close to decision day, counting down. Will it be next week? Hopefully it will be next week, but here at this channel, we do a therapeutic review where we utilize the internal family systems model to get a little curious about what's happening internally with these couples that are affecting how they show up for themselves and each other. And so we get to learn a little bit about them and potentially about ourselves. If you are returning, welcome back. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's get started. First we have Nicole and Chris. And so everybody's coming back from the retreat and they're coming in and they're debriefing about the other couples, and Nicole's like, hey, we kind of leave out us. Like, I feel like we're doing well. We're having a growth moment. Like, we had some moments where both of us got competitive. She talked about how putt golf, I had a moment because I was losing, but you helped me to understand, like, it's okay if I lose. It doesn't matter as long as I'm having fun. And she's like, and I noticed, you haven't used the code word pineapples, and I'm just checking it to see if you wanted to use it but just didn't use it for some reason. There's a part of her, right, that's also trying to make sure his voice is heard. I'm hearing that. I'm also hearing that there's a part of her that's like, is there anything that I'm doing that's getting on your nerves, right? Is there anything that I'm doing that's getting on your nerves? And so Chris is like, hey, how about we, I haven't had to use the word, and I don't want to use that word. I actually just want us to have a conversation. Like, if there's something that comes up, let's talk about it. Love it. I'm going to endorse that. Absolutely. He said that he feels like Nicole has received messaging, which she has. It even came up in her conversation with her father, if you caught a little whiff of that. Well, she's been told that she's too much. He said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to reinforce that. And if there's something if I feel like, ooh, maybe we need to dial it down a little bit, I'll hold your hand. I'll give you a look and you'll know. First is me using a word. And he said, and also these pineapples in the apartment. Can we get rid of these too? And so Nicole compromised. She moved the pineapples into her office. And so I'm hearing Chris using his voice and using his voice diplomatically as well. So that's encouraging for both of them. I feel like that's what's needed. Also for Nicole too, because it's a way for him, right, to bring up the things that he has concerns about while not reinforcing this messaging that she's getting of I'm too much. Right? So you can see that there's an internal struggle there. Like, I want to be able to say the things I need to say. I also don't want her to go into this shame spiral. So he has a part of him that's trying to control that. And Chris, I'm sorry to tell you that as much as you try, that part of her that's protecting her from being shamed, because that's really what it is, protecting her from being shamed, is going to come up if there's any hint that even sometimes before he even says anything, that will tell her, you're too much. You're too much. He's getting annoyed by you. Be quiet, right? That's going to come up, and that's for her to work on. But I see that he's really trying. He's really trying to manage that and really minimize that as much as possible for her, which again is very sweet. And at the same time, it's also something for Nicole to attend to. Chris is meeting with his brother, who's a life coach, and he's like, he's got a lot of advice on relationships. I want to talk to him. And brother's like, okay, how are things? And he's like, things have been really well. Things have been really smooth. We've had a few bumps along the way, but things have been going really great. I'm learning Nicole. We're learning each other, and they were at awe about how fast things have moved. Just 2 months ago, he was single. Now he's in a space of like, we have these dogs. I have a wife. I'm attending to her needs. She's attending to mine, and you could tell his brother was like happy that things are going well, because I know that his family was so concerned about Chris getting hurt again. And so his brother asks, okay, well, are there any things that you feel like, some things she does that bother you, or And Chris said, well, she does have a much more intense personality than I do. And so sometimes that can be a bit much for him to handle. And so also he realizes too that she can be self-deprecating at times and very critical of herself. And it's something that that he knows that she's working on. And he's just also trying to hold some grace for her. And that's pretty much what we see Chris in their relationship. They're pretty open all the time about where they are, and about the part of Nicole that's questioning their relationship. And it's less about questioning their relationship, more questioning since the beginning of the season, her lovability, her ability for someone to be with her and accept her for who she is, right? And so Nicole has to do that first. Nicole has to also attend to the parts of her that are protecting her from rejection, that are protecting her from being shamed, and attend to those parts so that these protectors won't be so in the forefront in this relationship. There's a part of her that has experienced that wounding before, and I'm sure it's very young, because sometimes Nicole does show up in this relationship in a younger space. And especially when she's like, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? That's very much like a little one, right? Who asks a question over and over and over again. Like, can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? And so something for her to get curious about. Hopefully that's something she can explore and do some internal work to really get the resolution that she needs and to feel safe and secure in this relationship. Chris is saying that he's really thinking about decision day and if this is a relationship that he's really going to be able to commit to for the rest of his life. I feel like with his conversation with his brother and also Nicole's conversation with her father, that this episode just in itself is just, you could just tell production, made these scenes happen. And so it feels a little unnatural, especially because I don't feel like Nicole and Chris are really questioning decision day at all. They may have some concerns about themselves or concerns about each other, but I don't feel like they're questioning decision day at all. Even Nicole's dad, you could tell that he has this part of him that's just so very honest and blunt, that he's like, why are you asking me? Do you want to be in this relationship? Well, if you want to be in this relationship, I support your decision. I see this guy. He's a nice guy. He's not a loser. He's not a serial killer. I'm fine. And so Nicole is like, well, I'm just trying to figure out the whole situation, our living situation, and her dad was like, look, either it's in or it's out. Very much dad energy. And he said, well, you have to decide if you want to be able to put up with all of him and be and accept all of him, and vice versa. That's a lot. He even communicated in that conversation that, Nicole, you're a lot to deal with. And so you really need to make sure that he's okay with that. So I wonder if dad is a part of that equation, right? A part of that narrative that Nicole has internally, that she's too much. And I feel that this couple, there won't be any issues about them staying together after decision day. I would be very shocked if either of them said no. We do see that Nicole does want, which I understand, she wants some clarity about their housing, and we see even in the next episode that that's something that she brings up. But as far as this relationship, there's no worries here. Next, we have Clint and Gina. And so it's really cute that Clint and Hank had this puppy love moment. He's driving, to get himself a treat, and he gets Hank a pup cup, and they're having this wonderful bromance. And you could just tell that this is amazing. It's almost like Hank is enjoying this too. I wonder if Gina has time to really spend with Hank because she's working and building so much in the salon, that he's just enjoying this companionship with Clint. And so there's an interesting scene there where Clint and McKinley are working out in the gym, and they're getting an update on the relationship. Clint's like, no forward movement with the physical intimacy, but we are we are getting along, we're communicating well, like things are going well in that department. And then McKinley says in his confessional that he's really shocked because Clint's an attractive guy, and hey, Gina's an attractive woman, and we have a lot in common, and I really would have wished that I was paired with Gina versus paired with Dom. So that is very interesting, especially since after that, Clint is encouraging McKinley to continue to explore dating, to feel more confident because he's been through this experience. He's learned some things about himself and to get back out there. And I'm like, hopefully that's not encouraging him to put himself out there for Clint's wife, especially since we see a scene in the next episode where he's shooting his shot in Gina's DMs. Interesting, but we'll get there next week. So Gina is having a pole dancing class with Jasmine as they're trying to kind of embrace their bodies, as it's been a struggle for both of them in the physical attraction for their mates. And so Gina, she could tell she's having fun and enjoying that. And they have this moment with Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal, as they are like, this couple is still not working. Like, it's not moving. We need to figure out what's happening because decision day is coming. And I get that. I do. You know what I'm going to say. If this is your first time, what I'm going to say is that this is too little too late. This needed to happen before, like right when they got home at the honeymoon, the shared space. They needed to be there to help them through this on a regular basis. But we're here and they're helping them, 4 days before decision day. So Dr. Pepper said, hey, did you watch those movies? And they're like, no, we really didn't have time to. Right after that, we had the retreat. And Dr. Pepper said, well, if I said, hey, I got $3,000, would you be able to stop by? I'm like, I hear her. I understand where she's going with this. What I will say is there are two different things. Driving somewhere to pick up money takes less time than watching a movie. Also, the movies that she offered them were so far removed, I think, from their generation even, and not really romantic movies as well. It could have been like, oh, maybe why? What was the reason? Why? Like, okay, you didn't have time. Was there any other reason? Oh, we didn't like these movies. Oh, movies aren't my thing. Whatever. To just explore it a little bit more versus scolding them for not doing what she said. All right, that's a parental moment, not really appropriate for like a therapeutic intervention. So, so if it was the movie selection, they could have maybe even brought up movies that they would be more interested to watch, or movies that would have helped them to get into the mood and really, be in an emotional place to want to connect versus Driving Miss Daisy. Because just for me, just the thought of that, that repels physical intimacy in my mind. So I don't know what's happening for Clint and Gina. I don't want to speak for them, but something else needs to be explored there. And even Pastor Cal saying, well, okay, so tell me where you two aren't, your lives don't match. And they're like, no, it's not that we actually see why we're matched. Like, we are a lot the same. We have some of the same passions. And they're like, okay, well, what is it? It's like, it's just a physical gap. Like, that just hasn't happened. And so Gina starts to open up a little about her concerns. You can definitely see that Clint is taken a bit back by everything she's saying. As again, I have felt, and I've said this in multiple reviews, I felt that since the honeymoon gates, that this couple has just not talked about anything that could be a conflict. They just have not said anything. And so now she said at the after party that she has been processing because it's so close to decision day and everything came out here. And so, yes, this is the first time Clint's hearing it. I hear her. I also feel like some of these things have been brewing. I just, there's a part of me that definitely feels that, because it doesn't get here. Like, there's like, when you do that, that makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't know why, but, just to speak to that, right? Not to say it's something for him to stop, but something for her to speak to and get curious about herself, right? So she talks about how it's a mismatch personality-wise. Clint's the life of the party. He's, he says some things sometimes that embarrass her, and, it takes her back. It takes her a bit back. So I would say, because Clint is really just being himself in those moments. Like I don't feel like it doesn't come off as something like he's trying to do, right? And so I feel that that's something for Gina to get curious about, as to what is it about him being the life of the party that makes you uncomfortable, that makes you cringe. Because I see Gina as a person who cares a lot about appearances and keeping a happy face, right? Kind of like how she did at the wedding. And Pastor Cal alluded to that, because they were like, what's happening? Because you were kissing at the wedding. Like, something must have been brewing there. And they're like, well, we just did it. We were in a moment. It was just the first day and we just didn't know what to do. And, it was happening. But also there were times where Gina was just like, yeah, he's hot, so, but that's definitely not how she felt in the moment. And I feel like she has a part of her that wants to present herself in a way, right? And Clint is just himself. And I feel like that is what gets triggered when Clint is just himself. She did say at the after party that, man, I really thought I wanted somebody who was the life of the party, and turns out, I guess I don't. So I really feel that's something for her to get curious about. I wish that Clint wasn't blindsided by this, because you could definitely tell that he's hurt. She also felt that Clint wasn't doing things to court her, to pursue her, to say he wanted her. And it's like, yes, you cook dinner because you like to cook dinner, but you're not saying like, Gina, what's your favorite meal? I would like to cook that for you. And so Clint said, yes, admittedly, I haven't done that. And at the same time, it would have been nice to hear this throughout the past, 7 weeks that they've been living together. So I feel like this is something that Gina's kind of been holding as like, as a carrot, right, for her internally, like an expectation, and expecting Clint, right, to do it. And sometimes we do that, right? Especially for her. She has a father who is absent and in her life. And so there's a part of her that wants, like, oh, I want to see if you want it. I don't want to tell you what I need and for you to meet me there. I want you to work for it and find out and figure out what I want and do it, so then I can really know that you really want me. And yes, I hear her. I understand that. And at the same time, you don't know until you say. You don't know until you say what you need. And sometimes you do need to tell your partner what's going on. They don't know. Now, and even for Clint to get curious about what was it that made him take a step back, right, to doing these bids. And what also Gina, for her to do these bids. Was it the initial bruising that happened at the honeymoon that put them both in the seat, like in the passive seat of this relationship, and now they're in a situation where like, well, we do kind of like each other, but I don't want to tell her that how much I like her, and I don't want to tell how much I like him, but these are issues that are on my mind, but I'm not going to tell him because I don't want him, like it's too little too late. It's just, this was a missed opportunity. I really feel like, I still feel like that. And I feel that Gina really needed more support than she received on truly being available emotionally and opening up herself. And also both of them working through that initial conflict they had regards to attachment and what they said that really bruised. That was a bruising. And so we know where there's bruising, there's going to be protection. It's been up. The walls have been up for the last few weeks, and now we're here. And so now this like the end of the relationship. So now I feel safe to say all the things. It happens. Even for an example, clients will sometimes at the end of a session say something that is like life shattering about where they are and what happened to them, because they're like, oh, I won't have enough time to process all this, and I don't want to, but I do want to say what happened, right? So they'll do that. And that's kind of what this feels like. I don't want to do the work to work through all of this, but I just want you to know this is what I was feeling. That's what it was giving in this session with Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper. And man, I really feel for Clint in this situation. And I feel for Gina, because I want her to be able to feel free enough, feel courageous enough to be open in her relationships. And so I know there's a part of her that wants that, but there's definitely a part of her that's deathly afraid of it. And it's something that Gina needs to get curious about, for sure. Next, we have Eris and Jasmine. And so Eris and Jasmine are walking in and sitting in the bed. Again, it's like, oh, production. Okay, but they're talking about the retreat and how it went well for them. And they feel like things are going well with the other couples. I'm like, are they? And how they are like, okay, what do you need from me from decision days? Like, Eris says, well, I need X, Y, and Z. I need you to continue to be open up because I feel like that's your best self. And he's like, well, what do you need from me? And she said, I just need you to continue to keep a safe space, for me to be open and honest. And I need, more physical intimacy. Like, I need that. That's still there. I need us to continue to talk and grow more. And so then Eris says, well, I just want to let you know, like, you can really initiate. You can initiate, like, touch. I'm okay with that. Hand holds and hugs. Like, I'm good with that. Like, I feel like we're making progress in this area. And you saw Jasmine smile. She just lit up. And so I have a part of me that's excited, right, about this development. I also have a part of me that's like tentative, because Eris is still growing in his maturation in relationships. Like, I do have this part of me that's like just a little tentative about Jasmine being so excited about this development. Also, I'm curious as to if Eris can initiate touch as well. And if he is doing that, like, I'm curious if that's happening. It also seems like what Eris is trying to ask of Jasmine is for her to push the the go button. That's what it feels like he's asking her, but not really saying it outright. So what I see, though, is we see that Jasmine and Gina are going to this pole dancing because they're wanting to embrace their femininity and get back in tune with loving their bodies. And Eris surprised her and comes to the pole dancing class, and they have a little moment where she's dancing for him and he's, making it rain, all those wonderful things. You could tell they were having fun. I wish that maybe the cameras weren't there so they could maybe get even more intimate, because it did feel a little awkward. And I'm sure because of Jasmine's upbringing that maybe there was a part of her that felt, just a little self-conscious about pole dancing on national television. But it seemed like they were having fun and enjoying themselves. And so Dr. Pepper, she talked about, like, we want to continue to help and give them tools. As the spark is growing. Like, the spark is growing. So they gave them this intimacy kit. And they had feathers and handcuffs and massagers and all the things. So they were using the feathers, and Eris was joking about places to put the feather. And it was nice, like, to see even him, because I think this is the first time I've seen him initiate touch on camera, at least. I'm like rubbing her feet, and she's massaging him handcuffed, which was a bit interesting. But like, there's definitely some connection that's brewing. He even stated that to an after party that he's really excited about what's happening for them in this relationship as of today. So I'm really hoping that Eris will continue to open up, right? I'm really hoping for that, and hoping that Eris will help to resolve some of the questions that Jasmine has, because he's been so hot and cold. And she talked about that too, as they had slap moment where he was talking about dominatrix and asking her if, she would ever do that. And he asked her to slap him. And she said at the after party, like, a part of me was a little leery because I kind of wanted to slap him because of all the things we've been through in the past 6 weeks. And Keisha was like, maybe you should have let him have it, because that's what it seemed like he wanted in that moment. But I'm hoping that he will continue to kind of really be attentive to these questions that she has, because there's a reason why she has these questions, because he's given her a reason to question, right? With how he has shown up as a husband at the very start of their marriage. So they do go to this medium, and the medium is very much on point. Now, there's a part of me that says, did production tell you this before they got there? But there were some things that I don't think production would have known, which is his great grandmother and his presence, and how his great grandmother is approving of Jasmine, and it's the first girl that she's ever liked and wants him to stick and stay, and how Eris does have pure intentions. He just has a lot of work that he needs to do. Like, he has a lot that he needs to learn, and that they both have some questions about who they are and their identity. So those are pretty accurate. And so I don't know if this is giving them more hope, if this is helping them to consider to stay in their marriage more. I do feel like Jasmine still has a lot of uncertainty about this because of how Eris has shown up. And so there's a part of me that's like, Eris, where are you at? I need you to snap to it. I need you to woo her. I need you to do these things, because she does have this part of her that is now, the walls are up. They're slowly coming down. And at the same time, she's still getting these questions. And it's only because she's protecting herself, right? Only protecting herself from the rejection that she's been experiencing throughout this marriage. So I'm hopeful that maybe they'll continue to move in this direction, and that Eris will really prove himself and resolve some of these questions that he's created in Jasmine's mind, and so that Jasmine too can feel more secure in this relationship, because I see her staying. I'm seeing her making the decision to stay, and I just have a part of me that doesn't want her to regret the decision to stay. Last, we have Shaquille and Kirsten. And so Kirsten is speaking to her brother about their marriage, where they are. And Kirsten's like, yeah, we don't really have a lot of connection, talks, physical intimacy. All that's just kind of died down. And we're just like in the space together, but we're not relating with each other. We're not close. And she feels that Shaquille has a lot on his plate, rightfully so, but she doesn't feel like a priority. And so I saw that her brother was, really giving Shaquille a little grace. He's like, I understand he's got a lot on his plate. He's got places he wants to go, understandably. And at the same time, this marriage does need to be more of a priority. And that Kirsten feels, of course, that on her end, that she does need to engage her family more in their relationship, because Shaquille is such a family man. And so she's going to try to do that and ask the brother to come. And she said, and then, I will take him to meet my dad. And he's like, oh, dad. He's like, that's the judge. So I'm catching that dad is definitely a strong presence. Kirsten did say at the after party that he doesn't like to be and doesn't want to be filmed. So I'm also feeling that's also a part of the delay as well. But she is going to do that. And I feel like that will definitely help Shaquille feel a little bit more secure in this relationship. Now, through this episode, though, I'm getting the sense that Kirsten's family isn't as close as Shaquille and his family. Even though Shaquille is, not in New Orleans, there's still a connection there. Like, they talk regularly. And it seems like that's not what happens, or that's not the rhythm and dynamic of Kirsten's family. And so that may be something that Shaquille has to embrace, because that does happen. Every family has the same dynamic or the same connection, and there's reasons why that is, right? So it seems even like Kirsten and her brother, their connection seemed like a bit, I don't know, just it didn't seem warm. It seemed a little cold. And so it really seems like that's not her normal rhythm to really have her family, really into her relationships, even though this is a marriage, right? But this is also a marriage where in a few days she gets to decide whether she's in or out. And Kirsten said to her brother, well, I still feel like 50-50. I am not 100% sure about this, and I don't even feel that Shaquille is in this relationship. She feels like he's in everything else, but not in their marriage. And so Shaquille is chatting with his friend and doing a check-in, and he's like, how are you doing mentally? He's like at about a 6 or 7. He's like, got a lot going on, and I'm still hesitant. I haven't met her family, and that's a concern of mine. And I want to know if I'm going to fit and get along with her family, if I'm going to feel, comfortable, if we have kids, dropping them off, and me engaging with them outside, without Kirsten present. And his friend didn't really give him much advice at all. He was just like, yeah, I understand. So I don't know if edited that piece out, but it was just a conversation. You hear his concerns, and these have been the concerns that Shaquille's had for a while now. And so Shaquille and Kirsten are getting ready for her family to come visit. And she said her brother had to work, so just her mom's coming over. They found mom. She was lost somewhere, and it definitely gave me a deja vu of their wedding. But she's there, and she's doing a check-in with them to see how they're doing. And I really appreciate Shaquille being honest about where he is, because that could take a lot to do in front of a family member of your spouse, to be like, yeah, I'm not my best self right now. I have a lot going on. And he says that he realized that Kirsten had her wall up, and he was doing all this work to take down the walls. And then now that she's open, now he feels like he has his walls up. I feel that Shaquille has taken a lot of dings in this relationship about things that she does not like about him. His sense of humor, his appearance, how he speaks, a lot of things. And then also not meeting her family. And there's a part of him that's saying, like, I don't think I'm what she wants. And then to add a little sugar on the top of her not coming to support him in Memphis. And Kirsten said at the after party that she really feels like that is something that he's still holding on to, and that's what's causing the disconnect in their marriage. And so they're speaking about this, and even for Kirsten, like, we don't have enough time to connect. And mom said, hey, my word of wisdom to you is let go of those expectations and to just be with each other. And yes, I think if it were that simple, wonderful. I do feel like what she's saying is very true and definitely needed for this relationship. Both of them have very, very high expectations of each other, and also are kind of dangling carrots about what each other needs to do in order to fulfill these expectations. And that's not fair to either of them, and it's causing a lot of bruising for both of them in this relationship. I think it's important for Shaquille and Kirsten to kind of check in to see what those expectations are about, because we know expectations are directly tied to unmet needs. And it really feels like admiration, appreciation, and validation are things that they both want from each other, but both didn't receive. And that's what's causing this huge disconnect in their relationship. And, Shaquille was taken a bit back that, it's taken even this long for her family to come over, right? And so after this, Shaquille and Kirsten are speaking, and she's like, I just really want to feel like you want me, like you like me. When you come in, you don't talk. And then we see footage of this. And so the part of me that was saying, like, oh, I wish I could be a fly on the wall to just know what's going on. They heard my request. And we do see where Shaquille is having like these moments where he's like either zoned out, he's checked out. She's like waiting up for him, and she's like, hey, how you doing? Or do you want some salmon and broccoli? And he's like, I'm fine. Nah. And so she's feeling like she's now in a situation where she's trying to connect with him, and he's created some distance. And I want Shaquille to get curious about that, about what that's about, what the distance is protecting. You know what specifically, right? Like we as viewers can guess, and I analyze, me as a therapist, right, can analyze it. It really feels like rejection, for sure, and to his expectations not being met. So he's like, I'm not gonna do anymore. I think I've done too much already. He even spoke to that at the retreat. Like, I'm doing all this work. How much work is it gonna take? And you said you're still unsure about this relationship. He's gonna distance himself, right? I'm retired. I'm not doing any more work in this relationship. So that's something for him to get curious about and really have an honest conversation with Kirsten. Sometimes for both of them, when the questions are answered, oh my goodness, they're not honest with each other at all, and don't want to be open. And I think that's too protection. Like, don't want to be vulnerable with each other as fear of what will happen. Right? If I put myself out there one more time, is this going to be another time where my expectations aren't going to be met? And so Shaquille is taken a bit back by this. Like, man, you never told me this. And Kirsten's like, well, I'm talking to you now about it. I want to know that you like me. Like, I want to know that you want to be here, and it's not just us as roommates. It's not just us just living together, but us like sharing our lives together. Because that's really what it's about. That's what it's about. So I really feel like it's really late in the game to be fixing and dealing with an issue this big. So I don't really see that this is going to be something that will they'll be able to move through in order to say yes to through decision day. But you let me know. You let me know about what you see with these couples as time is a ticking. And if you are still with us, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, be cool, be calm, be centered.